All right, good morning, class. So today we're going to be doing things a little differently, partly because of connectivity issues. I don't want us to be impacted by the recent connectivity issues that the network has posed. So I'm going to pre-record the lesson so we can go through it, and I also post it to the site so you'll have that information at your fingertips to listen to and go through on your own time. The questions associated with this section, I'll send it to you after. So when we have our discussion class later in the week, we will go through any questions, as well as we'll have a discussion about what we would have already looked at. So we're looking at now parenthood. Your teacher said you would have covered this in extra lessons. So we're going to move quickly through it, partly because you would have had your text, you would have had some introduction to this topic already. So I'm assuming knowledge on your part. And it's for the most part a very straightforward topic. All right. So we're looking at parenthood. So you're seeing just from looking at your screen that when you are thinking of parenting, there's another very important keyword that you must ensure that you do, and that is preparation, right? So we're discussing preparation for parenthood. And why is preparation necessary? Because in putting things together, and a matter of fact, in putting things together, in putting yourself together, you will determine whether or not it's an avenue that you can take, if it's an avenue that you're actually ready for when you have started to prepare. So in that process of preparation, you can say, oh, wait, but I don't think I'm emotionally ready for this, or, I thought the finances could have maintained this. However, I'm thinking that maybe I need to apply for another job or get another certification so I can be promoted, or I can increase my income in some way to be truly prepared, right? So when we're preparing for parenthood, we look at physical readiness, right? We have to be physically ready. Why? Because society looks to parents to fulfill all their obligations regarding the proper care, nurturing, and the socialization of their offspring. Good parenting requires good planning and preparation, right? So remember when we were looking at family, we stressed the fact that family has its own set of expectations and obligations. And we looked at the fact that we need to ensure that as a family, because it is an economic unit, the family takes care of its members, right? Now that we're looking at parenting, we're looking at it from an individual perspective, as a man, as a woman, as potential parents. What do you have to do to ensure that you can strengthen the family that you're about to start, right? So are you physically ready is a question that you have to ask, right? And when we're looking at physical readiness, there is a focus on the young woman, the female in the situation. Are you healthy? Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have any lingering illnesses that must be addressed with your OBGYN before an OBGYN, your gynecologist? Is there anything that you need to be mindful of as it relates to your health that needs to be addressed before you decide to physically carry a child, right? So, a pregnant woman needs to maintain a health and fitness regime. Following a healthy, well balanced diet before pregnancy ensures that the body has a good store of essential vitamins and minerals. Exercising improves energy and stamina levels during pregnancy and for the birth itself. The emotional and the psychological readiness, on the other hand, is where you're looking at the fact that you may feel like the people in the image that you're looking at now. Are you emotionally and psychologically ready to be the person that has to put aside their feelings, right? Put aside their wants and needs to solely focus on another human being? You have to ask yourself that question, because an infant is entirely dependent on other people to provide its needs, right? So is it a case where you are okay with sleepless nights? Is it okay that you may want to buy something for yourself, but you can't right now because at that moment your child needs something, right? So you want to buy a new video game system, you want to buy a new fancy pair of shoes, you want to go on whichever website and just spend and get yourself feeling and looking the way you did before you had a child, but then the child has a fever and you have to think about a doctor's appointment. Are you ready for that? Right? You have to think about it, because the mental strain from having to forfeit sleep, the psychological strain of having to put your feelings aside because you have to think about somebody else. For a significant portion of your life, you have to be making sacrifices. Is this something that you are okay with? Right? So what we're seeing on our screen now, an infant is entirely dependent on other people to provide for all its needs, and for a certain period, the needs of the child will take precedence over the needs of the parents, or will at least be a factor in determining how far a parent's needs are met. So you may get something, but you may not get as many as you would have wanted to. You may want to take a particular job, but you're thinking this job is going to take me away from my responsibilities at the home. So I'm going to take something that I may not necessarily want to do, but based on the situation, it is what is best. Are you okay with that? Accepting this situation requires a certain level of emotional maturity. Broken sleep patterns for parents can increase mental strain and the likelihood of physical exhaustion. So, when planning to start a family, you have to think physically. is this best for me, as we saw with the previous slide? But then you also have to ask, emotionally and psychologically, am I ready? And then another important factor is the availability, excuse me, of resources, right? So financial readiness, excuse me, is important because parents have to meet the basic needs of the child, providing food, clothing, and shelter. They will also need to consider expenditure on other aspects of their domestic arrangements, such as preparing a room in the house for the child to sleep in, right? And even if you don't have a situation where you can be in separate rooms, or maybe you don't want your child in a separate room, you have to think babies need bottles, they need bathtubs, they need clothes, they need a crib. Does the child have any special needs? What are the things associated with that particular need? Are you going to be able to go to a private hospital or a public hospital? Which one is best? Are you going to have to go to a clinic or a private doctor during the pregnancy? After you have the baby, are you going to take them to a pediatrician? What can you afford to do to be able to adequately provide for your child? So, adequate financial resources is integral to ensuring that you are prepared for parenthood. And it's not just, as you can see, this didn't even come before we looked at the emotional and the physical, right? Because many people may say, well, I can afford to have children. That's fine. However, being able to afford your child is important, but being able to raise that child in a healthy environment is way more significant than just the financial, right? Because you may have the money, right, to buy everything, but are you emotionally ready to put yourself aside to take care of this child, right? So that is why we looked at emotional and psychological. Are you physically able to deal with the strain that comes from having a child, right? Even if you can afford it, can you emotionally and physically maintain that role as a parent and ensuring in the long term that you have created a healthy and stable family unit, right? We have another consideration, and we looked at this when we're looking at the role of the family, showing love and warmth. Love and warmth are intangible but essential gifts for parents to give to their children. The negative effects on a child who does not feel loved or wanted can be devastating and long lasting. Children know they are loved if they have a reasonable level of attention from their parents. They sense that their parents are interested and they feel their parents' concern for their safety and happiness, right? So, are you capable of that? Right? Then the next consideration that we have is socializing skills. And remember, you're seeing now that we are pretty much becoming more specific and more responsible for the duties of the family, because we looked at the roles of the family and you can see that there are recurring roles. We're seeing that the same things that we said a family must do as a unit, you're now seeing that when we're planning for parenthood, you're asking yourself these questions. Do you have these skills? Are you ready? Can you carry out your duty effectively, right? Because you have brought a human to the world, which is a major responsibility. So there's a lot to think about, because you don't want to bring a child into the world and not have that child live to its fullest potential, because you were limited in what you could have given the child. And that doesn't mean only financial. It speaks to the love and the warmth and the emotional and psychological readiness that you need. So parents are the main socializing agents in society. What does that mean? As we progress through the syllabus, we're going to be going on to culture and looking at what a culture is and norms and values. And you'll see that we learn about who we are as a people in terms of a group, Jamaican, right? And that's why I said a people. So it is grammatically correct in that way, because we identify ourselves as one thing, and from there we're one in that regard. So what makes me Jamaican? But from there, what makes me a female? What characteristics have I been taught from my culture that defines me as a woman? What characteristics as a man defines me as a man? What is masculinity to me? Right? So when we're looking at what creates us, what molds us, the family is the cornerstone. The family is the first step in understanding how we're supposed to be, right? And then the next step is the school, education, and then we have religion and so forth. So we have different agents of socialization. So where I say parents are the main socializing units or agent in the society, it means that before church, before school, there is the family. There are the parents that teach the child what is acceptable, right? So that is what that sentence means, that parents are the main socializing agents in society. The most effective way of children learning the mores, what is good, what is bad, that's what mores are. It comes from morals, right? What is good, what is bad, the norms, what is normal in society, how do I behave in certain situations, and the values that refers to what is important, what is important, what do I hold dear, right? So the mores mean those morals. You don't steal, you don't kill, you know, these are things that you don't do. Those are moral things, right? The norms, all right? When you enter a room with and people are already there, you say good morning. That is what is normal. Or, when your teacher walks into the classroom, you stand and you say good morning. Those are normal day-to-day activities. So those are the norms. The values, on the other hand, what what makes me what is important to me? Who am I as a person? How do I want to carry myself? Right? These are the values. I want to be hardworking. I want to be successful. Right? These are the values that I have. I want to ensure that I am punctual. I want to ensure that I'm considered to be a respectable and functional and productive member of society. These are values, right? So parents should therefore act as role models, displaying appropriate behavior and attitudes. So a part of socialization is correcting children when their behavior is not acceptable. Then the disciplinary skills. Discipline is about maintaining control and in the household, This means that children should know the behavior that is expected of them and be aware of the sanctions that apply if their behavior is unacceptable. Part of the skill in disciplining is striking the right balance between sanction and freedom. We all need to apply discipline to ourselves. Self discipline is an important trait to instill in children. And let me break this down. This has a lot of information coming out. So we understand that discipline is maintaining control. If you're going to be a parent, you can't have your child running wild. Just they can do whatever they want to do. They eat when they want. They eat what they want. They can be on the tablet all day. They don't have to listen to you. No, you have to maintain control within your household. So you have to set standards of behavior. And when those standards of behaviors are not met, there are sanctions, right? Meaning that there are repercussions, meaning that if you have done something wrong, this is what you're going to get because of this action, right? So a child must understand that. And the sanctions can take many forms. No TV. You're going to go to bed early. You may get a timeout. In our Jamaican culture, you may get a slap or simple things, simple forms of punishment, not beatings with stick and brushes and limbs from trees, because then that moves away from discipline and into abuse. And what you find in Caribbean society is that abuse in some instances is seen as normal. People will laugh about the things that they would have gotten disciplined with, right? But you have to ensure that as a parent, the self-discipline comes in. A child does something wrong, you have and you're upset, you have to know that you know what, right now in this moment, I'm extremely upset. So I can't discipline you in this moment. Because if you do something that upsets me and I react in that moment, I'm not disciplining you, I'm taking my anger out on you. And this is why we say that self discipline is an important trait to have as a parent, right? So you know that the child damaged something precious. You know that, all right, I am very upset. You are going to be sanctioned, But before I do that, let me get myself in tune with what I'm feeling. Let me get over this emotion, and then I can reasonably and healthily apply the sanction to that situation, right? And that is why we mentioned self-discipline and its importance. Then we're talking about problem-solving skills. Parents can demonstrate and pass on decision-making skills, such as listing the advantages and disadvantages of a given choice and the associated consequences. Many childhood problems are to do with relationships and the emotions that can be a part of these. Parents need to help their children to have successful relationships, learning about such things as sharing and how to handle disappointment, cruelty, or unfairness are important when passing on decision making skills, right? So, looking at the advantages and disadvantages, this is how you problem solve. All right, this is the problem. Let me look at what the problem is. And as I look at the problem, I'm supposed to be formulating solutions to this problem. Um, when starting a relationship, you have to think, all right, this person has these qualities that I like. and they have these qualities that I don't like. Let me decide if the qualities that I don't like are just a matter of preference. Okay, so he wears a lot of what color? He wears a lot of pink. I don't like that. But I can put aside that preference because of the principles that he may have. So you have preference and you have principles, right? The principles are the things that you don't falter on, meaning that you don't adjust. If the principle column is very short, then your preferences are too superficial, right? So, and what I mean when I say that is if you're trying to decide on a partner, for example, and you say, okay, well, I prefer if the person is this height, if the person looks this way, if the person has these features, these are my preferences. They dress this way, they go to this school, they're in this grade, whatever it is. Those are preferences. But when we're talking about the principles, or this person doesn't go to class on time, this person misses class, this person drinks, this person curses, this person has no goals, no ambitions. Those are principles. So when you're deciding, you have to think, what do I have to, what am I going to compromise? You can compromise preferences, which may be superficial things, but for your the principles, you have to say, all right, what can I accept and what I cannot accept. So it's problem solving skills. What do I do? I'm upset now. How do I pacify this situation instead of magnifying and making it worse, right? So we're doing problem solving skills, right? You need to know, okay, well, I did this test, I did not do it the best way possible, but it doesn't mean that I am a failure. It means that at this task, I did not do my best. And you have to be able to teach your child skills like that so they don't drift into depression because they haven't done well on a test, right? So these are skills that a parent must teach. And then we have communication skills. Effective parents are both Effective parents are able to both use and teach effective communication skills, meaning that I can tell you what to do, but I'm also doing it, right? They can express their needs, desires, or ideas clearly and in such a way that a child can understand. Part of the communication process involves listening, so it is important that parents are able to also listen to their children and demonstrated that they have heard what children have to say. So the first line said, effective communication is being able to teach it and also doing it. So if you're teaching your child how to communicate, you can tell them what to do, but they will also learn from what you are actually doing, right? So if you're saying, okay, you need to listen to people when they speak, and as soon as the child opens their mouth, they cut them off and continue, right? That would suggest that you're not practicing what you're preaching. So even communication skills, if you're going to teach those skills, you're also going to have to employ them in your own situation as a parent. Money management. This is important because if you're going to maintain your role as an economic unit, which is the role of the family, as we said, we have to ensure that we know how to spend, and we also have to pass this on to our children, right? So it cannot be a case where, okay, it's back to school time and your son or even daughter wants a pair of Clarks, and you're going to say, all right, definitely going to get you the pair of Clarks, and I'm going to get you a High Sierra or a John Sport or some fancy school bag, and I'm going to ensure that I get you a brand new watch, a Michael Kors, or what other watches do children wear? Whatever brands there are out there. I'm going to get you all of these things. And you come in and you put all of the things out on the bed and say, look, son, look, daughter, I got you all the nice things. Look, I got you a brand new phone. I got you an iPad. Then you go to school, you go in your fancy bag, you realize you don't have a book, you don't have a textbook, you don't have a pen, you don't have a pencil, you don't have an eraser. That would be poor money management because you have not designated what expenses are necessary and what are unnecessary. Practicing thrift, meaning that you save, you practice methods of saving and you know how to budget, meaning that, all right, I want to get you all of these things. However, if I get these things, I can't get other important needs that you may have as a child, right? So practicing thrift, knowing when to not spend, knowing what to spend on. Well, you need to wear shoes to school, but listen, if you get the Clarks, you can't get the textbook then. Right? If you get these shoes, you won't have books. I'll get you a Samsung tablet as opposed to an iPad Pro, right? So you'll have what you need without having to forfeit or without having to eliminate other needs that you may also have, right? So say you need to have a tablet because we're doing online education. The parent has to make sure that you have a tablet. So you may not get the iPad Pro, you'll get a Samsung tablet or whichever version, whichever brand tablet you have. You're going to have your tablet, not the most expensive one, because I need to ensure that when you turn on the tablet and you click something, it doesn't say no Wi-Fi network available because you would have bought the iPad Pro, so now you can't pay your internet bill. Doesn't work as well, right? So this is the importance of money management. And then nutrition and health. A part of ensuring the health and well-being of children, a parent must be aware of what they are feeding their child. What are you telling your child it's okay to eat? So when you wake up in the morning, you can have Kisco, you can have your cheese tricks, you can have your Oreos, you can have whatever snack you want to have. Excuse me. Please excuse the noisy birds on my windowsill. Seem to be a very active member of the class this morning. All right, so where was I? I had to drink some water, so I lost my train of thoughts. All right, so what are you giving your child to eat in the morning? Any snack that the child wants? Or is it a case where you're saying, listen, I know you want to have your snacks. However, you have to have a healthy breakfast first. I'm going to give you some porridge, or instead of the Lucky Charms, I'm going to give you Cheerios because it's healthier, and you'll have your Cheerios with an orange or some apples or some grapes or something of the sort, just to create a healthy option. So you're teaching your child that, listen, I can't have all the candy I want. I can't have all the ice cream I want because it's not healthy. When they're young, they're going to react as though you're torturing them. However, as they get older, these values that you passed on to them will stay, right? Are you teaching your child? It's important to just take little walks or do a little run here or there to drink your water, to make sure that you're hydrated, right? Are you teaching them these things? And a matter of fact, one thing I'm sure that your generation will teach your children is to wash hands and to sanitize and to keep areas clean, because you are experiencing a new normal now as young people, because you're now living in COVID-19 times. And as a result of that, there are values that you're going to be learning at this stage that you will pass on to your children, right? So in days gone by, sanitizers and washing hands and things like that were important. But now those simple activities are almost feel as though it's a life or death situation. And so there are values along those lines that you can, I'm sure, you will carry on as you begin to teach your children proper values and understanding of the value systems, right? So a definition that we didn't touch on earlier was the concept of family planning. So when you're looking at family planning methods, and I looked at it last because it's going to be directly related to your homework assignment. So what you're going to do is you're going to tell me, I'm going to allow you to grab your things and write it down, even though you can pause the video. What family planning methods exist in different countries? And you can tell me any country, but within those countries, within that list of countries, I want Jamaica to be included. What family planning methods does Jamaica employ? Right? What family planning methods are in place in China? So the concept of family planning is a simple idea where couples decide how many children they want to have and when they will have them. There are health benefits for the mother when births are not too close together. Economic benefits follow when couples are able to manage finances and ensure proper provision for themselves and their children. So as a result of this, different governmental bodies will encourage their people to practice certain family planning methods. So for Jamaica, for example, so when I tell you part of the answer, you're now going to go and look for this method and give me no more than a paragraph of what that family planning method entails. So in Jamaica, the family planning method, you may or may not have heard, is two is better than too many. Two is better than too many. And what that means is 2 children is the ideal amount of children that they encourage their people to have. Because we're a democratic society, they cannot, as was the case, this is no longer the case in China, where they had a one-child policy that you're only allowed to have one child, right? But that has been done away with. But because we are a democratic society, they cannot tell you that you must do it this way. They can just encourage that you have two, because it's easier to maintain 2 children than 4, right? So you're going to look at family planning methods that exist in at least 5 countries. It's not a major research. I don't need more than a paragraph on any of the countries. And I basically told you 2, all right? So that is what I want you to look into for your homework, all right? So I will see you later in the week.